Hi, for any of you who have joined the broadcast early, this is Stuart Buchan here. I'm so looking forward to this live stream. As you can see, there's a ticker going down here. Please like and share this video, and if you're on YouTube, I would really love it if you could subscribe to the channel. There's 0 at the moment because it's brand new. So we'll catch you later. I'm going to run a timer about 5 to, so in about 2 or 3 minutes time, and then we'll get ready for the show. Cheers. Hi, I'm just about to start a countdown timer. I just thought I would come on and say again, there's a ticker down here giving you some instructions, or please, if you like and share this video with your friends, whoever you think might benefit from it. And if you're on YouTube, then please subscribe to the channel. I would love if you could let me know who you are, where you're viewing from. Actually, if you do comment, I can put the comments up just like the one that I posted just now. I'll pop it up there so that you can see what happens. If you comment, then I put yours up as well. So until the broadcast starts, I'll leave the broadcast just now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this inaugural broadcast of Dalgety Bay Spotlight. I am so excited about doing this. Normally, I'm the person behind the camera because I sometimes do the video for our church here in Dalgety Bay. I operate the camera. I also produce the videos that we do for our services. So it makes a big change for me. Actually, this is the very first time. If you look on the top by left shoulder here, up that way, you can see a Streamyard logo. This is the first time I've actually gone live with Streamyard as a vehicle to do live streaming. I used to use OBS before, and also some proprietary software. I have been training people how to use this for a year now, and this is really just amazing for me to be able to come live. I am live on Facebook, on profile page. I'm also doing it to our Dalgety Bay Spotlight page and also YouTube, all simultaneously. And that's all because of StreamYard, and who make it so easy to do professional streams, very stable, and I'm excited about that. So let me just check with my run of service here just to make sure that everything I've said so far is good. What I would like you to do, if possible, is let me know you're here. Actually, I noticed I've got a couple of comments here, so I'm just going to put them up now. Shayla, how lovely to see you. That is brilliant. Excellent. I am indeed in front and behind. Super. So what I've just done with Shayla just now, if you comment on your Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, whichever page you're on, or on YouTube, I will be able to post your comments up during the broadcast. So please feel free to do that and like, share, and if possible, just invite other people to come along and watch. If you're watching this on replay, especially if you're on YouTube, use hashtag replay if you want to comment. I can still see those comments after the broadcast, and I will get back to you. If you want to make any comments, you want to ask Andy questions or whatever, please do that. So as I say, it's really amazing for me to be in front of the camera. So what I would like to do is to explain how this has come about. As you know, we've all been locked down for over a year now. And one of the things that happened was that this community here at Dalgety Bay were amazing, absolutely amazing. So many people helping other people, so many people doing things to make people smile. And I had been planning to do this way back then. However, at that time, I only had a StreamYard free account. And all the things that I wanted to do, I couldn't because I didn't have the money to afford to pay to do this. Say, oh, well, it's not that expensive and whatever, but we're on a tight budget. I'm a retired individual on a basic pension, so things are tight. However, what I wanted to say is that StreamYard, on I think it was their 100th or one of their anniversaries or whatever, allowed people to have what they call an essentials plan. And that essentials plan enabled me to do what I'm doing now and still have this StreamYard logo just up here on the stream. And I'm very happy with that because I actually like to promote StreamYard. So anyway, with the lockdown coming about, one of the things that happened was Andy started to do these. Andy Barratt's my guest, by the way. He started to do videos with his drone, and I was so impressed with that. So I got in touch with him and I says, Andy, I do a YouTube channel for a church. I would really like to use some of that footage. Would you mind, and would you mind if taking some footage of the church? Well, just after that, we went into complete lockdown. and that meant that nobody was allowed out. However, Andy managed to get out with his drone and film the church and other things. And I've actually got that video to show you once Andy comes on, and we'll let him do some commentary behind it as well. So that's how Andy and I got together. So the whole reason for Dalgety Bay Billboard is really to celebrate people like Andy who have made a difference to our lives, who really made us smile and whatever. So that's what I would like to do. And one of the other things that happened, I just want to share a thing with you here, is that this week, this is World Autism Awareness Week. Andy has autism. He's autistic, and he also suffers from ADHD. So that's the reason why this is actually coincidentally all come together, and I'm amazed about that. So before I actually bring Andy on, I just want to quickly run a video, just 2 ticks, and this will let you see all about Andy. Okay, 2 ticks. Hello, Andy Barratt. How are you, my man?
Still weirded out at the idea of being described as a local hero as was in one of your intros back there.
Hey, you're a hero to me, as I told you before plenty of times. So yeah, I'm so excited. Let me just run through some of the stuff that was on that video. So you're Andy Barratt, born in Maidstone in Kent.
Yeah.
Yes, and you have a BSc Honours 2-1 on applied computing at Dundee University. You're a senior software developer, an author, a podcaster, a drone pilot, videographer, photographer. You're a husband to Heather and a dad to Rory. Just get this pronunciation right, everybody. Rory. And
like brewery, but without the B.
Brewery, correct, without the B in the front. And Johan, which is Owen with a Y in front. Yeah?
It's like Ewan, but with a yo sound.
Johan, I love it. I love it.
If you really want to get complicated, it's Johan. But,
Jochen.
We won't complicate things too much.
See, these way to think of it. These people, English people. Actually, do you know the people who do it's like my name, Buchan. The ch is something that people find very difficult to do. And I just say to people, loch, if you want the ch properly, just think that you've got something in your throat and go but don't do it quite so hard, just do it lightly. Buchan. So obviously the thing that I put up there, and I'll just pop it back up on the stream for both of us to see and hear. Oh, there you go, because that overlay is there, better take that off. We've got this we're doing today. So I actually think that it would be really good if you give us, how you cope with yourself.
I mean, in terms of autism, it's not a matter of coping. It's I don't. There's an argument here over language, and the majority of autistic people would say that they are autistic. They wouldn't say that they are a person with autism, because autism having autism suggests that being with autism is something that it's an illness that maybe needs to be cured for some reason, when it's not. Or being autistic is basically it means that our brains are slightly wired differently. We think in a different way to most people. I say most people. We think in different ways to a lot of people. To what is often described as neurotypical way of thinking. So, I mean, it's not a matter of coping. It's just a matter of I am who I am, and but it's also worth noting that just like neurotypical folk, once there's a podcast I follow. It's called I think it's 180 Seconds on Autism. It's a BBC podcast, actually produced by someone here in Dalgety Bay as well.
Wow.
And they have a brilliant phrase that they keep bringing up, which is once you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. It's simply this
That's
idea
an excellent. That's an excellent way of putting it.
That the way I'm autistic is going to be the way your friend is autistic. It's just not the case. I mean, we're so completely different to each other, and the worst thing that I've always put up with is somebody going, "Oh, you'll love this guy. He's autistic too." I'm not sure. doesn't mean you're going to like him.
Yeah. So when you were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, so when was that?
Syndrome. I was 15 when I was diagnosed. However, I've recently come to kind of rediscover my autism. So I was diagnosed at 15 with what they were calling Asperger's syndrome at the time, and then I kind of just thought, okay, Asperger's syndrome. From what I understand, it makes me a bit weird. But nobody ever actually sat me down and explained what any of it meant to me. And so I feel like I rediscovered my autism about 2 years ago, when basically I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress and depression, and the GP actually assigned me to a psychologist who was absolutely brilliant, because the GP just took a note at my file and went by, "Oh, he's got autism. Oh, I'll assign them to the psychologist who also specializes in autism." And then they immediately said, "I'd like you to go to this dealing with stress and anxiety workshop that we're doing for autistic people." And the first thing that did was it just gave a quick summary at the start of it of what is autism. And I was just sitting there going, "Oh, wow. How come nobody's told me this before?" And there were so many things that I was discovering about myself. I mean, I knew the basic things like I struggle with eye contact. One of the most horrible things someone could say to me is, "Please look at my eyes when you're speaking to me." And it's just, I don't understand why that's necessary. I don't really understand why anyone. And more to the point, I don't know which eye I'm supposed to be looking at. It's like, do I look at the left eye, the right eye, straight in the middle? Now I look cross-eyed. So it's always been a strange one for me. But as part of my rediscovering autism, part of that was discovering that I don't like using the term Asperger's syndrome. The reason being that Asperger's syndrome is named after the doctor who came up with the terminology, and it was basically Dr. Asperger's was a Nazi scientist, and Asperger's was basically deciding, yes, these are the autistic children, and these are the ones that we'll keep in the camp because they're good for labor, and we'll call they're my Asperger's autistic people, and the rest of them can go to the gas chamber for now. And
wow.
Yeah, frankly, it was. It's this idea that some of us are high functioning or low functioning, and it's horrible terminology, to be honest, because a lot of the time we're all just as high functioning as each other. Probably, it's just we think differently and we work differently and we don't necessarily do things the same way. Somebody who is autistic and can't and finds it difficult to remain verbal, to speak. You might be picking up that's usually not me. So, something like that does not mean that they're locked down inside and that they're stupid and useless. It means that they perhaps find it easy to communicate in different ways. You may well find that you can hold a perfectly ordinary text message conversation with them and not be any the wiser. So there's there's a lot of the idea of functional labels is can be very frustrating.
Another label. Sorry,
those labels. So, yeah.
Sorry, Andy. Another label that is this ADHD. Would you like to say what that stands for and how that affects you?
Let's see. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit and Hyperactivity Disorder.
Yeah.
Now, this is one that is going to be that I can't speak to quite so well because I literally got my diagnosis for ADHD last week. So I self-diagnosed about a year and a bit ago. I self-diagnosed in January of last year. I realized a lot of the things people were saying about ADHD. I basically had a friend who had it at one of my workplaces, and she started sharing various things of how it affected her life, and I was just going, "Wow, that's interesting." I've not and it had never really occurred to me that all the reasons I'd struggled to focus in the past, and all the reasons I struggled at school with staying focused on things. There was often this idea that I was less intelligent because I couldn't stay focused on a task. But and then there was also various other things. I ride a motorcycle. I've crashed my motorcycle 3 times. I drive, and I've had little bumps in the car quite a few times. And one of the things that popped up on an ADHD symptom was frequent car crashes. And I just looked at this. I was just going, huh. And then I started looking into it and looking into more and more of it. And I went to our GP again, and I sat down with I believe it was Dr. Rahim, and he's an excellent GP for all things mental health, I've discovered. And I just said, maybe I'm just being hypochondriac here. Maybe I'm just seeing something online and immediately assigning it to myself. But I've been wondering this, and he just immediately said, went to his computer, typed in something, clicked print, and said, "Right, fill in this questionnaire, please." And I said, "Oh, well, I'll go to the wait." No, just fill it in here. And I just went through it, and I was just going through it. I was going, these all sound fairly normal traits to me. I mean, they could be autism, they could be anything. And he got to the end. I handed it over, and he looked through it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm fairly certain you do." Oh, so he assigned me to go and speak to a psychiatrist about this.
Yeah,
because that you have to get a formal diagnosis to have any treatment for ADHD. And then we went into lockdown, and I had a year of this, and it actually became a major problem because when we went into lockdown, this is when the ADHD started affecting me the absolute worst. Because I'm surrounded by all of the things I love. My family's here, my hobbies are here, my garden is here, and all the things I adore most in the world are surrounding me. And I was being told I had to work from home now.
Yes.
And
yes.
When I can go to the office, I can focus on my work. And that's brilliant. Yeah. But suddenly I couldn't focus, and I was getting worse and worse at my job. And then suddenly the kids, Ruri couldn't go to childcare anymore. And so I was having to go full-time looking after him as well.
Yeah.
And all while trying to work. And to begin with, my work actually decided to put me on furlough for the reason of, well, we can't offer him work that he can do while also being a full-time dad.
Yes.
And that worked for quite some time. And then childcare started up again, so I went back to work. But now I had months of totally indulged in all of my hobbies, including, as you've pointed out, drones, 3D printing,
Yes,
This is
indeed.
an air chart on my wall back here. So I had so many hobbies. I built a greenhouse. I built a bench. I built planters in the front garden.
Yeah,
And
brilliant.
suddenly I couldn't work. And I went back to work and I just could not focus. And I was tearing myself up inside, feeling like this is insane. I am good at my job. Why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And it was, and of course, all this time knowing I'm meant to be getting some kind of diagnosis for ADHD,
Mhm.
which can give me a drug that will help me focus. But I
Mhm.
can't get it until I have the diagnosis, but everything's in lockdown. And so it literally has taken this long to get this diagnosis. And
Well.
we're a year later and I finally have it, during which time I got fired from my job because
Oh
I
my word.
couldn't focus. And I went to various job interviews where the feedback kept coming back as, and this is a quote from one of them, he's brilliant. He absolutely has all the skills we're looking for.
Yep.
He just seems a bit distracted.
Wow.
And we're not sure he'll be able to focus. And I'm just hearing this and I'm just going, this is everything I've been worried about being repeated back to me as a reason they won't employ me anymore.
Yeah.
And it was scary. And so to suddenly have this diagnosis, it has been such a weight off my shoulders. And I'm so thankful for our NHS for finally being able to give me the diagnosis. I don't blame them at all for the delay. I mean, there's been a bit going on. so it's not exactly their fault. I'm sure it would have been a much faster process, but it's been incredible being able to address these issues head on and finally being told, yes, have this, and here's how we're going to treat it. And it's
so
I can get back to doing what I'm good at. So.
Excellent. That's you just now. We'll talk about some of these things in a minute, but what I want to do is sort of go back in time a wee bit. So I'm going to ask you a few questions now. This is the first one. When did you move to Scotland?
Everyone hears my accent and thinks that it must be quite recent. There's four of us. So there's myself. Everyone also around here knows my brother because he's an elected councillor. So three other brothers, including David.
I'm actually going to put David up on the screen just now.
Is him?
Was that he was your best man? I take it then.
Yes, he was my best man.
Right. Okay.
So we moved to Scotland when I was 2 years old, and David was 1.
David was 1.
We have no excuse to have an English accent, but we grew up in the countryside. So we went to school, but most of the time we got our accents from our parents at home. So that's honestly the main reason we have English accents.
So you've actually answered my second question now, which was what was early family life like?
They're all over the place. So David and I moved when our parents split up. We moved to live with our dad from about we were about 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And we lived with our dad growing up, being brought up in a very Christian household growing up. And we were all down in southwest Scotland, so we were down in Kirkcudbright. And
nice.
Before anyone thinks, "Oh, well, that explains the English accent," no. The moment it's weird. It's like there's an invisible line called the border, and on one side they speak with English accents, on the other side they all speak with Scottish accents, and it's just like, how did that happen? It's incredible. And suddenly the accent in Kirkcudbright, where we grew up, is it can be even I sometimes struggle to follow, which is terrible because being down in the border area, you can imagine there's a lot of Scots spoken there. It is the home of Rabbie Burns. So
indeed, absolutely.
And sometimes if I try speaking it, I just sound like a muckle glaken numpty. So
Okay, so tell us about your education. What from school to uni?
school to uni. Okay. So I went to a primary school called Castle Dykes Primary, which does not exist anymore. They knocked it down. From there, it was at Kakubri Academy for 4 years. Now, it was while I was at Kakubri Academy that I was actually diagnosed with at the time Asperger's syndrome, and unfortunately, autistic support was not brilliant back then. And sadly, my teachers, for the majority of them, did not take it well. They treated me like I'd been diagnosed as if I was gone in the head.
Yeah.
And they basically treated me like I had behavior problems. They treated me like people shouldn't pay attention to me, and they were really not very pleasant. And unfortunately, it meant that I ended up dropping out of school at the age of 16. It was when one of my guidance teachers basically suggested that when I said that I wanted to become a computer programmer because I was obsessed with computers. That's a theme within autism, is having these intense interests, and my intense interest as a child and growing up was computers. And it's with I said I wanted to be a computer programmer, and he brought up my test scores and said, well, not sure about that. And he basically insinuated that I'd be better off just going to the fish factory in the town. And
oh my word!
And so it became clear to me that I probably did not want to be at high school anymore, because I didn't feel like they didn't seem to want to give me the education that I wanted. And they didn't seem to like me very much, and I just felt bullied by my own teachers. I was being bullied enough by my fellow pupils. I didn't need it from my teachers as well. So I ended up going to college, where I studied computing, and then while I was there, I got into video making and then the madness took over of a new intense interest of, it wasn't computers anymore, it was making TV shows and videos. So I went to Cardonald College, where I studied TV production. From there, I realized, oh no, maybe it should have been computing after all. Ultimately, it ended up going around. And it wasn't until I was at Perth College where my lecturers said to me, listen, why are you here? You should have gone to university.
Yep.
And I was just like, well, I was told that I couldn't go to university. I was told I wouldn't be able to. I was told I wouldn't have the grades, and that I wasn't going to get them. And they were basically said, well, you clearly have what it takes. So they basically sat down with me and guided me through the application form, and it gave me everything I needed to go to what was the nearest university, Dundee University. So that's where I ended up, and
excellent. And you ended up getting a 2-1, which is excellent.
In applied computing, which I was very pleased with.
Very pleased indeed.
And from there,
that's an achievement in itself, to get a 2-1.
And I've been in full-time work as a computer programmer ever since.
So tell us. So you have been in computing all of that time. So I just want to show just now your website, because obviously you've designed this, haven't you? So
it's one of them. I wouldn't say I designed that one too hard, because it is very much a WordPress template.
Yeah, what I like though is you've got some videos and everything.
Yes, it's got some of my drone footage there. I think that will play what is actually my most popular drone video. So showing the bridges to begin with, and I remember going out at sunrise.
How did you get those colours? That's just amazing.
I drove out there at I was waiting from 4:30 a.m. to catch that. So So it was quite
Wow.
dark when I arrived there. And I was just waiting for the sun to rise. And you can see as I'm rising up here that you do, in fact, catch the sunrise.
Oh, that's absolutely gorgeous, Andy. And there's the bridges.
The bridges.
We're so lucky to live here because those three bridges are three different centuries that were built.
Yes, I suppose so. Yes, they are.
Yeah,
There
I
you go.
think it's.
Sunrise.
I'm
It's
not
just like,
sure
oh,
if it's a.
yeah,
I'm not sure if it's a worldwide claim that, but it's certainly very eclectic here anyway. So yeah, I love that.
But
So yeah,
yeah,
I'll
so
just
effectively, I've ended up doing what is called front end development, which is very much the web facing side, the part that you actually see when you're on a website, is what I'm producing, or it could be on a phone app or whatever other device that you have the actual piece that you interact with. That's
yeah,
my job and also my fault. So, but as you might have seen on that website, it says that we're doing this for the TV and film industry. So I've managed
yes,
to
it does say
eventually
that. Yeah, yeah. I'll just
recently
put it back on
put
so we.
these two things together. Um, so Barratt Digital Services is technological solutions for the film and TV industry. And so, for
Yeah,
instance, we're currently working with, you can see there, Annika, which is a TV show being based on the Radio 4 drama Annika Stranded, and
yeah,
which is excellent, a radio show if you get a chance to listen to it. But they're
yeah.
making it with the same actor, actually. There she is, as a TV show, and it's an interesting one. It's kind of like a police drama crossed with Fleabag. So you got certain elements of comedy and her talking to the camera and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting one. But yes, so and I was working with helping get the police force, which obviously, with all things TV, everything needs to be just a little bit fictional. You can't.
Yeah.
You never see anyone using Google. Have you ever noticed that? Whenever they search for something online, it's never Google, and it's because of
No.
product placement rules. So it's things like when you need to show somebody doing a search for something, up comes fake search engine. Well, I'm the sort of person who puts together the fake search engine.
Yep.
I've literally got on my screen right now. I don't think I could show it to you.
Yeah. If you had,
turn it around. This
if
here
you had
is
said that.
Netflix that I'm putting together. So
Oh,
this is
nice.
Netflix, and this is for another TV show that is being produced for CBBC. And yeah, it's simply a matter of they need to show somebody going around a Netflix-like interface, but obviously BBC can't show Netflix because they're not allowed to advertise.
Oh, right. You're right. Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
I put together fake Netflix that will show up on a big screen TV, and it will be controlled by somebody off camera.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Actually, if I'd known that you were going to be able, if you wanted to show that, we could have had your screen on here in the show. But that's good enough anyway. So listen, what were your hobbies and pastimes early doors? Not,
early
before.
days computers.
Yeah, early
Anything
days.
computers. Just get me on a computer, and so we got I grew up around a little Amstrad machine in our house. We played Yogi Bear on it. Haven't seen Yogi Bear in a while, have we? And then from there, we got our first Windows computer, which was running Windows 3.1, which was my dad's computer, but I very quickly tried to take over it. It was meant for work.
Yeah.
And I always think it amazing because we had years of me just non-stop on that computer, constantly using it. We didn't have internet. Nowadays, I think to myself, if the internet cuts off, I just think to myself, what am I going to do? There's nothing to do on the computer when there's no internet. What on earth would I do without internet? I just can't figure out how I kept myself occupied that long without internet access. But yes, and then as I say, when it got to teenage years, I tried my hand at doing YouTube stuff. Well,
Yep.
first video stuff, and then YouTube got invented, and then YouTube stuff. So,
Right.
yes.
So, did you play any games?
Games, not very many. There were, computer games. I've had a few. My favorite was for years was Riven, which was the sequel to Myst,
All
which
right.
was one of these point your mouse, click, and then you travel to that part and you solve a puzzle there. Point your mouse and click. It took me 9 years to complete Riven.
Wow.
I just kept giving up with it.
Yeah, I used to do when I was offshore. I did a bit of programming myself. But one of the games, well, there was two of them. One was Adventure. Don't know if you knew that, but that was a text one, and you had to go underground and go round all of these things. That was amazing. I loved that. I had to draw a map to know where you were.
And a bit of graphic. Yes, that was in Riven as well. You had to draw a map. You were surrounded by pieces of paper that you were taking your notes on to try and remember. Because you could be on one island in Riven, and then a month later you could be back playing the game, and you'd be looking for your old notes for the last time you were on an island at the other side of the continent, because now you need to know exactly what you found there with all the notes that you wrote down, and then you'd be stuck in a submarine and going around hidden passages. But you ended up realizing the only way I'm going to find my way around was to get pen and paper and draw a map. I can't think of the last time I saw a computer game. I don't think there's any modern computer games that require you to have a pen and paper next to you. I just don't think that anyone's making them anymore.
No.
And they were so much more submersive when it was like that, because you'd be dreaming about puzzles and codes that you'd encountered during this while submersed in this world. Whereas now it's just, blow up that thing and that'll probably solve that level. Everyone expects a level to be completed in 15 minutes, not a month.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the other games that I used to enjoy, we used Hewlett-Packard computers a lot, and one of them was Pac-Man, but it was Pac-Man on not on color but in black and white, and it was fast as anything. And I watched this engineer, fellow engineer of mine, and he could, just go around and get rid of all the ghosts and whatever, and get all these points up. And I thought, he's really fast with his fingers, getting all these things, because you had to do the arrows to get round and time it. Yeah. I ended up beating him, and I was so happy, because I thought, this guy is so good. How am I ever going to get that good? But practice makes perfect.
I can't say I was ever good at the fast and quick games.
So, your hobbies back then, I obviously know one of your hobbies just now. I'm going to pop this up on the screen. This is Instructables. So, Magician's Wand. What was that all about?
Oh, yes, I'd forgotten that one. That was Instructables often have these competitions on give us instructions on how to make something using blah. One of them one week was using tape, and Rory had been running around saying he was a magician. So I decided I was going to grab a piece of dowel, put some tape on it, paint it black, take the tape off, put the tape back on, paint the tips white. That was my Instructable: how to make the most excellent magical wand in the world.
I love your upside the pizza spam. And do you know something? One of the things that you put up on the billboard was that chip recipe.
Oh, was it? Oh,
it
yes.
was.
I think I got told off for that, actually.
You posted that up on the billboard, and I thought, wow, that is amazing. And it's so good. I don't know if I can get this up. Let me see if I can.
I remember, and I always try to make these things a little more entertaining than just a recipe or something. I can't remember. Was this one with a robot just spying on it all or something like that?
Yeah, all the supplies, turn on the oven, cut the chips, boil them, drain them, put them back in a pot, oil, salt and pepper, lovely mix. bung them on the trays, shove them in the oven, wash it while you wait. I like that. Wash up while you wait.
Yeah.
Chips. Wonderful. I
Chips.
remember seeing that on the billboard and I thought, well done, Andy. A
I
lot of
remember
people,
it was something like
and that was
some
during
people were
lockdown.
complaining that they couldn't get into the chippy at the time, so I figured I'd share that. And I remember somebody's response was, "Oh, you could just support local." I was just, oh my
Yeah,
goodness. I don't know.
yeah.
Billboard's lovely at times, but sometimes people just come on, really. What have I
Indeed.
done wrong now?
Okay, here's your
But
next
yeah,
question. Here's your next question. How did you meet Heather? And I'm just going to pop her up on the stream
oh
because
yes,
I was
there she
hoping
is.
that she would.
She's the one on the right, everybody.
Nice one.
um,
Yeah, how did you meet her?
yeah, I met her at university. She was a first year. I was a tutor for first years.
Hmm.
And we decided that Heather and I decided that she needed some extra tuition.
Extracurricular work, yes, I get that.
Yes.
Hmm.
So
We're after the watershed, are we? No, we're not.
not quite.
Not quite. Yeah, indeed.
So,
That's excellent. Yeah. So here's another one. Tell us about your boys. Now, obviously, I tell you what I didn't do. I didn't put the picture up of you with your kilts on. And I didn't put the picture up of you lying down sleeping. It was in the video, but unfortunately, I forgot to put them. I forgot to put them up. So my apologies for that. But one of the things that you have is this, and I'm just going to run this so that people can see why this is here. Let me run this audio just now. Ready?
Maybe if you didn't have so much egg in your mouth, you would be able to talk to the microphone. Yeah.
Now I talk.
Now you can talk. Hello and welcome to PodTod or TodPod or Todcast, whatever we've decided to call this. I'm Andy Barratt.
And I remember it.
And he's Rory Barratt. Now then, so the main thing in the news right now, Rory, is all about COVID-19. That's the virus. What do you think of the virus? Do you like the virus?
No.
No? Why not?
Because I don't like it.
Because you don't like it. What's wrong with the virus?
I need to go away to topic and open.
It needs to go away so that soft play can open, I see.
Yes.
And why does soft play need to open?
And shops.
And the shops? Well, the shops are open, but you can't go into them, can you, because of the virus?
Because naughty babies go away.
Yeah, the naughty virus needs to go away before you can go into the shops. Is that another egg you're cracking open there? Well, first we need to go pick up these plant pots and then we'll go to the park.
But we can be told box. I'm going to virus.
We can't pick up the plant pots because of the naughty virus.
Naughty babies need to go away. We can.
So the naughty virus needs to go away so we can't get the plant pots, but we can go to the park? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I see. Hi guys, Andy here. Just a quick note. Turns out doing a podcast in a car, not the greatest idea. The following episode of TodPod was recorded over a week ago, and I have spent all this time trying to figure out how to remove the sound of an air conditioning unit in a car from a podcast. It was a bad idea then. I will not do it again. Hope the episode's okay.
Hey, so I'm going to take that off just now. I don't want to talk to you about that at the moment. So, yeah, obviously that is amazing. I know you actually wanted me to do a clip that was 10 minutes in, which you said was the funniest. And it was, I have to say that. But however, unfortunately, we're not quite past the 9 o'clock watershed, so that's why I didn't do it. However, if people do want to go on that, then look for TodPod on Anchor or any of your podcasting apps.
Your podcasts.
Yes, wherever you get them. Other brands are available. Yeah. So, so what are your favourite things to do now?
So these days, I am doing, as you have picked up, everything. So the thing with autism, as I said earlier, you have these intense interests, and I've got loads of them. But more to the point, when it's all mixed in with ADHD, they hop around a lot. And
yeah,
so I will go from being obsessed with flying drones to suddenly now I'm as obsessed with building a greenhouse in the back garden. Suddenly it's wind turbines, and I'm building wind turbines. And if anyone goes past our house and wonders what that weird green thing spinning around is, it's a very small wind turbine that I 3D printed. Because that's
you 3D printed. I know. I remember you asking for stuff on the billboard, and yes, I think actually my niece had something that she was, and you asked if you could get it. I don't know if you got it from her, but I think it was it a bouncing? No. I can't remember. I remember you asking for something on the billboard, and I thought, until I had something to do it.
When it comes to making wind turbines, one of the most incredible parts has been trying to make everything as much as I can out of recycled parts.
Yep.
And I found that if I ask on the billboard, I just go in my head. I'll go, I need batteries to charge up.
That's right. I remember the batteries.
And I think nobody's going to have just a car battery lying around. Why would they? But I figured I'd ask. And suddenly I've got 8 of them. It's just
That's right.
So I've got a battery bank, which I've currently got a solar power panel charging up. And then
excellent.
I can use those for the Christmas lights and so on, which I did this year. So, and one thing that I thought was mad, one of the most incredible things you can have for making a wind turbine is something called a direct drive motor, which you get in very posh washing machines when they have direct drive. And it's a special kind of motor that has a big magnetic drum that spins around all these coils. And I thought, I'll try my luck. And I just put on the bill. If anybody does, somebody was throwing out washing machines, and I just thought, you know what? If you've got a direct drive washing machine and you're trying to figure out how on earth to get that to the tip while we're in lockdown, let me know, because I'll pick it up. I'll take what I need out of it, and then I'll separate everything else and get it to the correct recycling center when I get a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Within minutes, I had a direct drive washing machine sitting in my car. I was just like, this is incredible.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
Immediately just go, yes, please take it away from me. And it's just like, and meanwhile, I'm going, thank you. And then it's just like insane that people are throwing away this gold. And
that's right.
Of course, because it's this idea that one man's rubbish is another man's treasure, and so. A broken washing machine seems absolutely useless to so many people, and then I get it, and it's just like, oh, look at this!
Oh, godsend!
You can imagine what Heather thinks of finding a pump lying around. I go, what is this going to the bin? And I go, no. Well, actually, that there is a pumping system for your water bat, so that it pumps water to high up, so that you can use it in the greenhouse when I've collected the rainwater. Suddenly she's interested.
Sounds good.
But
Yeah.
it's been amazing because I've been able to do so much of it recycling, and there's so much more to do still. I'm still building these bigger ones. So I asked for bicycles at one point, thinking
Yeah.
I thought people would be throwing out old rusty bicycles, and I thought, well, I'll see if anyone's got an old rusty bicycle. The day I posted that, I had 4 bicycles that night,
Wow.
and some of them were really good bikes. so one of them I'm actually doing up, and the idea being that I'll see if anybody, next time I see somebody saying, does anyone have a bike? I really need one. Then I'll go, here's one, and it's all cleaned up.
Yeah.
Because I don't need that many bicycles.
No.
But,
No.
I could build myself a wind turbine out of them and hopefully do
Super.
some good and learn loads out of it. So it's I get all these constant new hobbies, and so when you describe all the things I do, well, me they're just distractions. They're just one distraction after another.
Yes. Yeah. I know that. Yeah.
Excuse me.
So, bless you. Anyway, one of the things which actually brought us together was video, doing the video. So, I'm actually going to add this to the screen just now. So, see, that's actually our minister. I'll maybe turn the volume down so you could talk us through some of these shots.
Yeah, these are some of the shots that I think you took these from a bunch of videos I did, and
yeah, what I did was I took the best of what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've edited it in a way that I would never have done, but it works
Yes.
for you. Because I always like to. I go for the arty one shot at a time, and don't show them anything else.
This is our church.
So
Which
this is the shot that you asked me to film. I went.
Indeed.
I went to the church and got these for you to make sure you could get them on there.
Oh.
There's me walking over the car park.
Yeah. It's just round us. This is good. The boats.
Rory there.
Yeah. Is that Rory?
That's Rory.
Oh, I didn't know
This is the
that.
thing. What you've got to remember is when you said we were all locked in and couldn't go outside, but Andy managed to get out with his drone. That makes it sound like I was sneaking out in the middle of lockdown.
No.
This was my exercise. Basically, each day I'd go for my one walk a day, and then it would be a matter of figuring out exactly where are we going to walk. So that's why all the videos were in Dalgety Bay. It was because I couldn't go anywhere else, frankly. So I was, and it was my first time learning where most of the things in Dalgety Bay were since I moved here. So I was going out for a walk with Rory every single day, and we discovered our way to the St. Brendan's Kirk, or as Rory calls it, the castle. And so the first place we went was there, and I just thought, right, well, I'll just start carrying the drone around with me. Each time I'd end up somewhere, I'd decide, right, let's fly around here and see what we could see. So it was basically, we'd go for a walk, and then at some point we'd sit down on the rock and I'd start flying, and this is what we'd find. That one was less popular because you really wanted to sit on the bench. So did I.
I missed that bit.
Top of the bench. And then the loch here is within walking distance of us, although I think I did cheat that. I might have got on my bike and gone along.
Yeah, so I'm going to take that off now. But actually, one of those shots there was what I use for the overlay. Let me just.
Yes, I think you've got it as the main shot when it was.
Yeah, it is. So I'm going to put the overlay up now so that people see what I mean. Angle. So that's that. Yeah. But yeah, that was that. You called it Project Hera. Do you still call it that?
It is now Hera Drone and Camera, I think. It's what I renamed it. It was originally called Project Hera 2.0. The reason
Yes.
being, Project Hera was something I did in university, where basically a mini project I did was to take a very old remote control aeroplane, which I named Hera after the goddess Zeus's wife, who happens to be the goddess of the stars, of the sky and the starry heavens. So I thought, okay, here she is. So I just needed a name. so it became Project Hera, and then obviously I got a drone, and I just thought, oh, well, what am I going to call this Facebook page then? Just like, oh, it can be Project Hera again, except it's not Project Hera because that was a project. So this is Project Hera 2.0. As it happens, It turns out Project Hera is taken now. It's now actually a dance studio or a charity in America. So,
all right. So you can't have that
then. But yeah, eventually I realized Project Hera 2.0, bit of a mouthful, and nobody has any clue why it says 2.0. So how about we name it so that it actually describes what it is? So I think now it's on the page as Hera Drone and Video. Drone and Camera or something like that. It's been a while since I put up a video. I need to do another one, and I'm in the process of putting a video together for another community group nearby.
Now, have you finished your commercial license, or are you taking a commercial license for it? No, you're licensed.
For the commercial license, I've taken my theory test. I need to write a flight manual, which needs to be like this thick, and it will be. So I need to put that together and then take my practical test once I put that together. But otherwise, I'm nearly got the commercial license. Basically, I just need to do it. so it's just sitting there waiting to go. However, the law did change this year, so a lot of what I do, I can now do commercially, without an additional license.
So could you do if they wanted to do the estate agents wanted to do people's houses, providing you got the permission, would you be able to do it as that part of the commercial license?
Where I would still need, I think, a commercial license. But one of the things that I couldn't do, for instance, was if I took a photograph while I was flying, which if you follow the Project Hera page, you'll have seen various photographs, like a panoramic shot of Dalgety Bay. Yeah. But I couldn't. If somebody had asked me, "Can I get that as a print, please?" I would have had to say no, because then I would be breaking the law. I wasn't allowed to sell anything like that. And likewise, if somebody came to me and said, "I love this video from this, can I license it, please?" I had to say no. Whereas now I can say yes to certain things like that. Also, certain shots were very much bending the law last time. That shot going over the church technically would not really have been allowed. However, as I say, the law changed this year, and it was simply a reflection of the Civil Aviation Authority basically realized our rules are too strict for small drones and for hobby drones. They realized that for some, they'd made it as strict as it needed to be for these massive drones that people fly when they're doing huge commercial shoots. Because if one of those fell out of the sky, it could crush a car. If it was falling too fast. Whereas if my thing fell out of the sky and hit a car, frankly, the drone's going to be more damaged than the car. And it was the car's probably going to get a light scratch on it. Which I
think the big thing was with drones was the problem that the airports were having and airports.
There was an issue with the airports as well, and the fact is the law has not changed there. I'm not allowed to fly near an airport even now. The main thing was very much a safety aspect of it, but these small, tiny drones like my one, which my one's actually only about this size. And I'd like to upgrade soon to one which is more like this size. But as I say, the law was very much designed for massive things, and they just wanted to lock it down because they were worried that people were going to be doing commercial things with these giant drones without any training and without any insurance. And because of the way it was written, it was so locked down that anyone like myself who just had a hobby drone, and was just taking some nice shots, we couldn't. I mean, if you take a nice photograph on your holiday, and somebody says to you, "Can I buy that photo from you and buy a print?" You can say yes, but I couldn't say yes if the camera I used happened to be flying. So it's basically that side of the law that they've realised this is a bit silly, and it was also the fact that these tiny little drones, they're perfectly safe to take off from your garden, hover over your house, and fly off over a field and come back. It's perfectly safe, but I wasn't allowed to do that because the law stated that you couldn't be within 50 meters of a house.
Yeah.
Any house or a road,
including your own house.
Basically, just so locked down and strict, and it was because they designed it. It was laws designed for a drone industry before drone hobbyists really took off.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so when the drone laws first came in, they adopted all the standard clauses and were much stricter. And the CAA has basically this year updated it along with the European equivalent, and they've updated it just to say, yeah, actually that was a bit ridiculous. So they've now fixed that up for them. And I remember one, for instance, if I get told, please, can you just give me a shot of flying over my garden? I just want a shot of us in the garden from above so that I can. And I just had to say no. I was just like,
yeah, shame. Absolute shame.
Whereas now I can absolutely say yes, absolutely. As long as I have your permission to fly over your house and take a picture of your garden, I'm good to go. So, whereas before, that was a problem. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 things that they say you shouldn't discuss: politics and religion. Well, this is your evil Dr. I.
Oh yeah.
Comic.
I think everyone will be shocked to learn, based on who my brother is, that I support Scottish independence.
Yes, absolutely, David. David is our MP councillor, one of them, because Alice McGarry's another one. Yeah, as well. So yeah. So how did this come about? Was this due to the Scottish independence referendum, or?
Now, you'll notice on this screen that it says Evil Dr. I, but you've got Nessie holding up a sign that says I. Behind that is the word I.
Yes, indeed. EYE. Yeah.
Yes. And if you look on the left-hand side, you have a character with a giant eye for a head.
This one.
When I started a webcomic, it was not in the least bit political. I was drawing this character, Evil Dr. I, with an eyeball for a head. In fact, I think if you were to click first on that, you'll see that now, that first comic, and it's got nothing political at all. Which all drawn on ink and paper and so on. And yeah, it was very much I was drawing a comic based on what I was experiencing in the world and what I was seeing, and I was just making something using this character that I'd been drawing since high school. I remember in high school I drew a perfectly good eye on a sheet of paper, and then my art teacher, Mr. Gould, would say, "Well, that's very good, Andrew," as I was back then.
Yeah.
But where's the rest of it? So I drew the rest of it. A little stalk, T-shirt, and there he is. There's the rest of him as a cartoon. My art teacher and I did not get on. But yes, I ended up drawing it constantly over the years, and it became Evil Dr. I. And it was
the man here.
That's the man here, right there. And it wasn't.
So what other ones? So if I click next, I haven't actually done this, Andy. So this is the first time I've actually seen the comics. Yeah. Oh, these are just speech bubbles then. You want me? Want me to blow up a bit?
No, let's not. I can't even remember what this one is. But
yeah, it's a lot of speech bubbles.
It was actually I got into politics a lot later. Yes, I think I was trying to do some kind of storyline or something to begin with.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
um,
I'll just go back. I'll go
yeah,
back to the homepage.
yeah, let's do that. It wasn't until the night of the Brexit vote, and I drew a cartoon the night before that, and let me see if I can find it for you. It was called Time to Go, and it was it was extremely. Basically, I drew it. Where can I share a comment? Here's a private chat. Presumably, I can send it to you, so you can maybe load that one up. So I drew this comic as a kind of, this is what I'm scared is going to happen, while they were counting the vote for the referendum, and it basically depicts this. My character, Evil Dr. I, as a child, running around in a play park, surrounded by all these different countries, all getting on and all doing really well. And then finally, suddenly, this big arm reaches in, and this person wearing a Union flag walks in and says, "No, time for us to go. We have to leave." And we're just being forced out of this play park with all the other countries looking at us, going, well, "What? Where are you going?" So I drew it as a kind of, this is what I'm scared is going to happen. I actually didn't think it would. I honestly did not think that people would vote for Brexit. I just could not fathom why they would. And then I woke up in the morning to find that both it had come true, but also my website had 10,000 hits on it. And it was just immediately. That's the wrong one, yeah.
It's this one I want. It's that one. That's the one you've just sent me.
One, yes. So I had suddenly 10,000 hits. And keep in mind that at this point, I would release a comic and maybe 10 people had looked at my website. I'd be lucky if I got 20 people on a good day having looked at a new comic I had released. And then I put this one out and I get 10,000 hits overnight. Because, of course, I'd done it in such a way that I tried to make it no words. It was 100% language free. So, of course, everyone in Europe was sharing it around. Everyone in Scotland was sharing it around.
Yep.
And it was exceptionally popular. And I just ended up thinking to myself, oh, well, I could do more politics. Because I'd actually wanted to do political comics for a while, but I didn't think anybody would want to see them. And yeah, after that, it just carried on. I just carried on doing these comics with political stuff. And I ended up going to Comic Cons and so on. And in one case, I was actually interviewed on stage at a Comic Con all about it with another political cartoonist. And it was interesting doing all of this stuff. And ultimately selling a book based on it as well. I did a character called the Naughty Unicorn. And it was basically this idea of Scotland's national animal. There was this animal, that unicorn, running away with its chain behind it, having been broken. And it just said, look, the unicorn doesn't want to be chained up. What a naughty unicorn. And it was just this ridiculous idea that the unicorn is naughty. And yeah, that became a very popular character. So I ended up writing a book called What a Naughty Unicorn, which is based on The Lion and the Unicorn, which is a poem that was taught to me by my English grandparents. And it goes, the lion and the unicorn were fighting for the crown. The lion beat the unicorn and beat him around the... I can't even remember it properly now.
Beat him round the town or something, was it?
Sorry?
Was it round the town?
Beat him round the town, yes. So let's see. Lion and Unicorn poem. The nursery rhyme that in England got taught to myself as a child by my grandparents. The lion and the unicorn were fighting for the crown. The lion beat the unicorn all around the town. And when he had beat him out, he beat him in again. He beat him 3 times over, his power to maintain. And And my grandparents were basically, when we were visiting them down in Carlisle, they would say, and that's why England rules Scotland, because the lion beat the unicorn. And
Ooh.
yeah, so I just thought to myself, I'm going to take that and I'm going to do a 300 years later. And so it's basically a children's, done in the style of a children's book, this idea
Yes.
of why does the unicorn, he wakes up 300 years later and looks all around and decides that, well, what could we change? So, so it's this idea of why would independence be a good thing for Scotland, but done as a kind of in a childlike way. And some people would take this and actually teach their children, this is why your mum and dad support independence. And other people just see it as this is a nice way of putting it. And other people have taken it as the original intention of, it really is very childlike. It's so simple, but independence is just such a normal concept. Why would, and it is this idea that, well, why would any country in the world want to be ruled by the bigger country next door?
I agree with you, Andy. I think the other thing as well is if you look at every independent country that Great Britain, when it was Great Britain, when they left, not one single one ever said we want back.
Yeah.
Because they survived. They survived without having that imperialism behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. But,
yeah.
There we go. But I always find it very interesting. I remember David campaigning on the doorstep, and he did actually go to one person's house, and they answered the door. And, I'll never vote SNP. You're all racist. You're racist. It's like, who are we racist to? He goes, you're racist against the English. I am English. And it was just like, what?
Bit confusing.
The idea that independence is something to do with anti-English sentiment, it always just makes, we find it very amusing in our family, because
absolutely we're the same.
Until a few years ago, it was actually 2013. Right up until 2013, all of us supported the union.
Yeah.
We were all very much for Britain, and in fact, David used to run a Facebook group called that made fun of independence, which was especially amusing.
No, it's a bit ironic now, is it not?
In the past about it. But yes, it was an interesting one, because we all went to Christmas. It was Christmas 2013. We were all sitting around the table, and we were all discussing it and about this upcoming referendum. And then we all just slowly admitted that without any of us talking to anyone, any of us, we hadn't discussed our views. And we all discovered around the table that every single one of us, 4 brothers and my mum, had all independently come to the conclusion that actually we weren't going to vote no anymore. We were all going to vote yes.
Yep.
So much so that David was now an active member of the Yes campaign.
Yep.
My mum was as well. And just we were all suddenly supporting independence. It all just made perfect sense to us, and we couldn't. And for me, especially, I remember one of the main things that struck me was, I remember seeing a billboard, and it was by Better Together, who had just launched. And I remember looking at what it said. It was something about your pension wouldn't be safe, something like that. And I remember looking at it going, well, hang on a minute, that's not how the pension works.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I know that that's not true. Why are they using things that aren't true?
Scaremongering, yeah.
About all the good things about the union, and then they say more things. It's just like, but that's not true either. And I was just like, so I just started looking into it, and I was just like, well, is any of it true? So, and then I was just left thinking, well, hang on a minute. So what actually is the benefit of the union? And I couldn't find one. And I still can't find one. The only benefit that I can have, and it's the only one that I ever hear, is military might. It's just like, I don't think that's something that I really...
The only military might that just now, when they're reducing the army, because I've just said that, and they're spending billions of pounds on nuclear weapons.
Yes,
in the UK.
We've got nuclear weapons, which of course... Where did they dump?
Here in Scotland.
Where are they going to park them? They could park them on the Thames. That would make sense. Oh no, we don't want them there. Let's put them far away from anyone important. Let's put them on the Clyde, right next to Glasgow. Thanks. Cool.
Indeed. So there's obviously we're getting very close to local elections. Everybody's on the campaign trails now. Bit difficult with lockdown.
You know.
Sorry?
They're the national elections, not local.
Yeah, it is a national election. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, what I mean is local to Scotland. It's national to Scotland. Yeah, you're right. But it doesn't involve the rest of the UK. Just yet. Yeah. So as far as Scottish Parliament goes, I think as far as the SNP, I mean, I've been a supporter of the SNP since way back, because my dad was a secretary of the SNP in Rosyth. I don't know if he was a secretary. I know he published a newsletter, and at that time, way back then, it was in its infancy. But I just thought, why shouldn't we be on our own? When you saw how Norway were getting on with the oil, I just thought, why wouldn't we be successful? We export loads of stuff, financial services, whiskey, the fishing industry.
When you take some of the countries that have gone independent and done very well for themselves, we're far less than what Scotland has. And then to tell us that, well, actually, you wouldn't be able to do it. It's just like...
You wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah.
Why not?
Indeed, and one of the other arguments was about, the only way you're going to be able to stay in Europe is to vote no, and look at us now. We're not even in Europe now.
Yeah, we're not in Europe anymore.
And the majority of Scots voted to stay in Europe.
Yeah.
60% plus.
And it was a pretty big majority of people in Scotland voted to stay in Europe. But it simply doesn't matter. And this is often the case. I mean, it's an amount of elections where you can look at our general election record going further and further back, and it's simply a matter of people keep saying, oh, Scotland, if they'd voted for that, then it would have been a different party in charge.
No,
and it's simply not
correct.
True.
We only ever get what England wants.
Yeah.
We only ever get what England wants because of the size of the country, and that's why the first past the post system doesn't work for Scotland. That's why the Scottish Parliament was set up, so that you have your vote.
Proportional representation.
We've got proportional representation, and that's what we should have.
I have a sister-in-law from Denmark, and I remember when she came here, and she just couldn't understand, because the Tories had just won an election, and they got something like 30% of their election. And she was just like, wait a minute. They got 30% of the result, and that means they won? And she couldn't understand. Why does that mean that they're empowered? They only got 30% of the result. That makes absolutely no sense. And it was simply a matter of because they got the most votes. But all these other parties got votes too. So
yes.
Why are they in charge? And I remember seeing the perfect representation of this was, imagine if you had 4 candidates in an election. One of them is a cat, and the other 3 are dogs. Yep. And then you've got a population made up of cats and dogs, and they all get a vote. And all the dogs go by, I'm going to vote for this one. Oh, I'm going to vote for this one. I'm going to vote for this one. And then the cats, all of them go, well, I'm going to vote for this one.
Yes.
So the cat's in charge, even though, and I'm missing out the key point here, that cats only make 25% of the country. They all voted for this one. but the rest of the vote got so diluted that none of the others could win. Something like that. And it was just it was just this really impressive way of looking at it. I like that analogy. A proportional system, like we use in council systems, the STV voting, of if all the dogs have been able to say, well, actually, if my candidate doesn't get it, I want this one, and if that candidate doesn't get it, I want this one, then you immediately get a much fairer voting system, showing that actually the majority of the country wanted a dog candidate of some kind. But it doesn't matter because more people voted for the cats. So, and that's just, and it's a very broken way of doing elections. Now it makes, for some reason, I'm labelled as Stuart Buchan and you're labelled as Andy Barratt right now.
That's why. There you go. How about that? Does that work? Does that work now?
Yes, I'm the right way around now. But no, it was. It's fascinating to see how these electoral systems work and when they absolutely don't. Because it's true, first past the post, the election system we use for Westminster, for everyone, it just makes sense. Oh, well, they got the most votes, therefore they win. But it's not the fairest system. It's not the system that makes sense. And in almost any other country in Europe, they're not using it. They use a much fairer system that allows that has knockout rounds or a proportional system. So Scotland has it, Wales has it, and then, as I say, my sister-in-law from Denmark was just looking at the system, going, "But the Tories got hardly any of the votes. They're the most right-wing party, and everyone else voted for various left-wing parties of different types." But it just doesn't matter, despite it showing that the majority of people would have wanted a left-wing candidate of some kind. No left-wing candidate is in charge. No left-wing candidate won. And it was just, that's insane.
Indeed.
That's not how it should work.
No.
So, it's there's something very broken with the electoral system in Westminster.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, we'll find out how Scotland will vote, in a wee while. So the other thing about that question was religion, and I'm just going to bring this up here, because these are the books you've written, and I'm going to try and see if I can zoom in here so that we can have a look at this.
So the first book was actually Hudud and Escape. And then we have Jihad and Unheard, which are both about very much Muslims. Based around Islamic characters and Muslims.
Yeah, indeed. And you know, the funny thing is, when I saw that, I thought, well, in my career as an engineer, I worked quite a lot in the Middle East. I had a lot of Muslim friends. I worked in the UAE, so I lived in Abu Dhabi. I went to Sharjah, I went to Doha, I was all over the Middle East, because that was when I had my own business. And I spent a lot of time talking to Muslims. And you know, I started to quote some of the Bible, and they said, how do you know about them? How do you know about that? I says, because that's in the Bible. No, it's not. It's in the Quran. I says, the Quran came after the Bible. And you know, one of the things that really hit me about 4 years ago, I had a bit of an experience where, and I'm not going to go into that because it's a difficult story. But one of the things that hit me at the time was Abraham had 2 sons. The first one was Ishmael. He was the firstborn, but he was born out of wedlock. And the second one, obviously, was Isaac, who was the promised son, because that's what God has said. And what I realized was that is why we have got all this conflict now, is because if you're the firstborn, I'm the oldest, so I'm the firstborn in our family. And I, as the oldest, then normally in those cultures, everything goes to them because they're the firstborn. So I get where Islam comes from, in the sense that they say, well, Abraham was still the father of both the boys, and he loved them both. It's not that Abraham didn't love Ishmael; he did. But it's just that the lineage, which eventually led to Christ from the biblical perspective, and obviously this is Good Friday, so it's important for me to discuss it as a Christian, that, understand why that conflict happens. And so many of my friends are Muslims. I've got a lot of friends who are Muslim. I've got a lot of friends who are Jews. I've got many more friends who are Christians because I am a Christian, but I have a lot of friends and I've got friends, I've got Hindu friends. We have lots of chats about religion and about stuff like that. On this page, I think if I say here, we were brought up as an evangelical Christian, and I know we had this discussion earlier this week. So do you want to, sort of go over some of what you said to me that will help understand where you're at now?
Right. So where I'm at now is I am not Christian. I'm not religious of any kind. I am very much atheist.
Yeah.
Now, for me, as I say, as you said, I was very much brought up Christian. I was brought up in an originally Church of Scotland, and then later an evangelical church, which my father is now the pastor of. It's what some people would call a happy clappy church.
You just carry on. I'll put you on solo. You keep chatting. I have to go and do something.
Oh, right, okay. So yes, I was very much brought up as a Christian, and I remember having various conflicts with what I was being brought up to believe growing up. And one of those conflicts, to begin with, I remember my dad would always watch EastEnders, and there was this one time where these two men kissed. And this was quite controversial at the time. I've since learned it was the first ever gay kiss on British television, to my knowledge. And my dad got so angry that these two men were allowed to kiss on TV because we were being told that God was against that. And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why my dad was so angry and what was wrong with what was happening on TV, because all I was being told was that God was did not want them to be together. That two men kissing was against God's will, and that he was effectively telling me that God hated this. He was so angry that they were kissing. But around the same time, I had been told that that God was love, and that all he cared for in the world was love, and that wherever you found love, you found God. That's where love didn't exist without God, because he was love.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I'd just been told by a childminder, actually, that all the negative emotions, all the negative things in the world were not created by God, but were created by Satan. Mm-hmm. And these included things like hatred and all horrible thoughts and horrible feelings. So all I saw was, here's two men who appear to love each other. So clearly God's there. And here's my dad telling me that God hates them for that. And I just couldn't fit it together. It just didn't make any sense. If God is incapable of hate, and it's only Satan that hates, and if God is love and these men love each other, what was the issue? And I didn't understand it, but I just went by, well, I'm a child and my dad's right about these things. So, so I moved on. Oh dear, sounds like the little one might be upset. Oh dear. So it moved on from there, and I later found a small red ribbon outside my school. I was leaving school and heading to the childminder, and I found this little red ribbon curled up over itself and on a little pin. And being autistic, I just thought, ooh, nice red ribbon, and it's a badge, cool. And I put it on, and I just liked this red ribbon. And I went home, and my dad was livid. He was in horror that I was wearing this thing. And he explained to me that that was a ribbon in support of a disease that God had sent to stop bad people doing bad things. Oh, wow, I better not wear it. Why would anyone even support that disease if God sent it to punish people? And the ribbon, of course, was an HIV/AIDS ribbon, and I would later learn that basically he believed that this disease had been sent to punish people for being gay. And again, I just thought, why would this God who supposedly loves us all want to do something so awful? And I couldn't understand it. And I would later come to read the Bible and learn about these things. And I was looking at my friends who were gay and thinking to myself, well, hang on a minute. These people aren't bad people, and they're being bullied for what they are by everyone. And they clearly didn't choose to do this. So clearly they are just gay. They can't, if they could, because it was very obvious that if they could just choose to be straight, they probably would. They would do it immediately because it was driving them mad. It was in the way people were harassing them for what they were. And I just was left thinking, well, if God has made them this way, why would he hate them that way? And so eventually I came to the conclusions of, you know what, God isn't exactly how I've been taught he is. God clearly, I chose, despite everyone telling me otherwise around me in my church, that God does not hate gay people. He couldn't possibly. And frankly, when I looked at the Bible, you had things like the Old Testament, which said that gay people were sinful and horrible creatures, and we shouldn't allow them. That God hates them and finds them what's the word? An abomination. Giant word.
Yes.
But the same book was also telling me that because I'm wearing a polycotton shirt right now, that I'm an abomination and that I should be stoned to death too. Which is just like, well, that's just nuts. But when you look at the New Testament, Jesus said that these old laws didn't matter. That the important thing was the 10 Commandments and to be a good person and to spread the word of God and be and basically to be kind to your neighbor. So to me, it was just like, well, all of those rules, Jesus has said that they don't matter anymore. Okay, good. You get 4 Gospels of all that goodness, and then you immediately get Corinthians. And suddenly we're back there again. And then I realized, well, but this is just letters to these guys in Corinth from Paul. And I'm just left thinking to myself, I feel like Paul wasn't paying much attention to his friend Jesus. so I kind of was just left thinking, you know what? Maybe not. I've since found out recently, actually, that I've had a few theories. I haven't looked this up, so I can't give a reference to it. But I'm being told that apparently the original translations didn't say anything about gay people. It was things like you men who sleep with men was actually originally you men who sleep with boys, and it was actually more about pedophilia than anything else.
All right. Okay.
But I haven't checked how much truth there is behind that. So I can't promise that that's true. But I felt, certainly back then, okay, Paul, you should have paid a bit more attention when Jesus was actually talking. So I moved on from that and thought, okay, nothing in there. However, I was now losing my faith. I'd been suffering from depression and so many, and I'd had a lot of trouble in my life. I was being bullied all the time. I was acting out and not understanding how to act like a better person. And I was a lot of nights going to bed desperately praying to God, please make me a better person. Please help me. Please answer me. Please do something. Tell me that you're even there. And I was just slowly but surely finding that God was not answering me. People told me God answers in different ways. Sometimes you feel it is what he's saying to you. Sometimes he'll give you a sign. I was going, well, I'm open to any of this. Where is it? And it just wasn't happening. I just didn't feel that God was answering me. And it was ultimately a few people in our church were starting to be baptized. Now, I'd already been christened as a baby, but baptism was to them a real commitment to God. They're saying, here I am, I'm going to work for Jesus, and he's going to be
believers'
there.
baptism, we called it. I was brought up in the Baptist church. We called it believers' baptism, which that you actually make a decision personally, follow Jesus, where as a child, as a baby, it's in your parents,
which I've never
present you.
understood the point of. I don't see how that is.
Yeah.
I don't think being indoctrinated into a church should ever be allowed, to be honest. It should be a decision as far as I'm concerned. But beside that point, eventually I decided I'm going to get baptized, because I did still believe enough to realize this. As far as I was concerned, I was just having some confusion with, I didn't understand why God wasn't answering me, and he seemed to be answering everyone around me, but not me. But who knows why? There must be a reason for it. But I decided to commit my life to this. And as part of the preparation for being baptized, I was meeting with my pastor, and he was saying things like explaining that when you go under the water and then you come back out, it's hard to describe, but you just know something is different. You immediately come out and the world just looks different to you, and it will be different. I was like, this is it. I'm going to be baptized. I'm going to come out, and I'm going to realize immediately that, there's God. This is what I'm going to do with my life. This is it. And I went under this freezing cold outdoor swimming pool water, came back up, looked around, and all I saw was the congregation around me looking down, grinning, and I just thought to myself, oh my goodness, they're mad. Oh God, what have I done? And it was just like that. It was just like, none of it's real. It's all just made up. Oh my God, I've wasted my whole time. It sounds kind of funny to anyone who maybe not Christian, but it sounds almost funny. But to me, it was heartbreaking. It was, if you can imagine being told that your best friend, who has always been there for you, who will always be there, if anything should go wrong, they will be there for you, being told that actually they're not your friend after all. But worse than that, you just imagined them. They never actually existed. We just told you that you had this best friend, but they're not actually going to be there. They didn't ever exist. It was heartbreaking, and it took a very long time and a mourning period to get over that. And I was still somehow doubtful. Hopefully it's just a crisis of faith. But the more I looked into it, the more I just thought, I just don't believe any of it. I just don't believe that a God exists. I don't think that there's one there. And this is one of the important points that I like to clarify about atheism. I don't believe there is no God. I just don't believe in a God. There's a very different thing. For all I know, there is a God, but I see no evidence of it. of them. I don't know where they are. I don't see them showing up. And frankly, the more I think about it, the more I don't want it to be the God that I was taught about. I don't want it to be this spiteful God who hates people for not doing things the way he suggests. And the way I often tell it now, when I describe it now, I think of it this way. A creature appears before me. I don't know what this creature looks like. That you can imagine anything you like. The creature appears in front of me and says, "You, worship me." No. And I'm already on the defensive. I'm already thinking this creature is not a good creature to want around. This creature, immediately, my immediate reaction is there's something not good about this thing. It might even be evil. And then the creature goes, by the way, I can prove here now. Here's the proof. I actually created this whole world around you and the universe and all of it, everything. You exist because of me. I made you. And I'm going to think, wow, that's really impressive. That's incredible, actually. That's amazing. Yes, so worship me. No. Why would I? No, I'm not going to worship you just because you told me to. But I created you. Yes, and I'm very thankful for that. That's very kind of you, but I'm not going to worship you. No one deserves to be worshipped, no matter how impressive they might have done, how impressive something they've done is. Mm-hmm. This creature then says to me, okay then, if you worship me, I'll give you all of these wonderful things. You'll live forever in paradise. You will want for nothing. You'll be so happy. Oh, that's really impressive. Thank you. So you're going to worship me now. I'm still feeling very uncomfortable about that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's the deal with them. If you don't worship me, I'm going to punish you, and you'll suffer for all eternity. You will never have paradise. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm definitely not going to worship this creature. I definitely don't want to do that, because this creature has now told me that they're going to torture me if I don't do as I'm told. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a good way, and nobody who threatens torture deserves to be worshipped. Right? Oh, and some further conditions. You also have to do this. You must do this. You can't be with this person and love them, maybe have sex with them, unless you get married first. You must do this. You can't eat this. You can't do this. You can do this. Wait a minute. Why can't I do any of that? Oh, because I just don't like it. Why don't you like it? And then after time, so yeah, ultimately I just can't see myself doing that, and so I'm at the point now that I think even if God were to appear, the God that I've been taught about, if they were to come to me and say, here I am, I was real all along, you were wrong, I was right, you should be worshipping me, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna. I just don't think they deserve it. I'd actually be very angry with them, because I'd look at all the suffering that happens in the world, knowing, as I've been told, that this God is apparently all loving and loves all of us equally with all his might, and that with a click of his finger he could solve everything. He knows how to do it. He just won't. I just don't think that they are worthy of my worship. And so I'd like to hear that I'm wrong. I'd like to have for it to be that I die and I appear and here's God and he says, you know what? I actually existed. But here's the thing. Here's the key point. I feel like I don't need to be following the Bible to be a good person. And a lot of people seem to think that that's true. I did have one person who said to me, "Oh, we'd love to talk to you about your atheism. The difference, of course, will be that because we're Christian, we'll have to be polite about it." And it was the most hurtful thing. This idea that I wouldn't feel the need to be polite to someone because I wasn't Christian. It's just horrible. This idea that I need to be Christian to be a good person. It's just unfair. And I ultimately hope that, yeah, I'm sure I get things wrong sometimes. I'm sure I probably act sinfully sometimes in any definition, whether it's a legal definition or a biblical definition or just generally not being a very nice person sometimes. I'm sure I get things wrong. But I hope
don't we all, Andy? I think that's very true of all of us.
But ultimately, I hope that if I meet God when I die, and He says to me, "You were a good person. You didn't follow it by the way that I would have had in my book, but ultimately you were a good person. Come on in." That's a God that I could maybe want to get to know more, even if I find some of their methods a bit odd, and perhaps I'd like to find out that maybe they weren't quite as all powerful as they were made out to be. I'd like to find out that the reason they had children dying of cancer is because the powers were a little bit exaggerated and they couldn't actually just click their fingers and fix everything. So that would be nice to hear. But if they say, "Andy, you were a good person. You did as much as you could that was right in the world, but you didn't do it the way I said in my Bible. So you're going to be tortured." I don't know. I think at that point I would accept the torture, because I'm not going to do anything at that point to switch and say, "Well, okay, you were right all along." So
I think the thing about Christianity in particular, more than any other world religion, and as this is Good Friday, this is the day that in history that Christ died on a cross. The difference between Christianity and every other religion is that you can go and see any of the other religious leaders' graves where they're buried. Easter Sunday, Christ rose from the dead. And factually, all the stuff says that he did. That there was nobody. And you know,
Islam,
the historian...
the opposite is true.
Yeah, but I think...
was concerned the Prophet Isa, as Christians call him, Jesus, did in fact die on the cross, and he was buried, and he very much stayed in his grave.
Well, as I say, that book was written 100 years after Christ, in terms of where Muhammad came from. But what I was going to say is, it's about faith, and faith, whether you believe that Jesus was God incarnate and raised from the dead, and the Holy Spirit within us allows us to live the life that Christ asked us to live. And I've had crisis in my faith a lot, and as I said to you before, 4 years ago I had an experience that totally changed my life. But it wasn't the best experience I've ever had. It was the best and the worst all together. And if somebody had said to me, "Do you still believe?" Absolutely now. But back then, 100%. 100% believed that. Then over time, I realized that some of the things that happened to me and happened to people around me meant that it wasn't really the bed of roses I thought it was. In fact, there was lots of thorns that have affected my whole life. My family life, my extended family life, etc. But I still believe that Jesus was the Son of God. I still believe that he will come back again. I still believe that whether or not I live a life that is, pleasing, I still know that deep down in here, I believe that he is the Son of God, and that's just a faith. And I listen to all these other friends that I've got talking about their faith. I respect every single one of them. I just happen to believe differently. One of the questions that I had, and I'm pretty sure you probably would have had these questions as well, was what happened before Christ arrived? Where did all these other religions come from? People who live in countries who've never ever heard of Christ. Who judges them? How are they going to be put up on the judgment seat and say, right, okay, well, you didn't believe, so you're going to hell. Those are questions which are on me, and I just have to accept that it is a question of faith, whether you believe or you don't believe, whether you believe in something or you believe in nothing. I just happen to feel that my life as a Christian is more fulfilled being a Christian than not.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
And I know when you mentioned about the baptism, what they said to me was, it is the dying when you go into the water. It's like you're dying to self, and when you rise, you are a new creation. It's a bit like the butterfly in the cocoon.
Yeah.
When the butterfly is, the cocoon's where it dies, and then eventually it comes to life. That's why the butterfly is a very strong symbol about Christianity. Is because of that new life experience. It's a completely the caterpillar becoming the butterfly is how we will become whatever God wants us to be when, the second coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I view it. And I remember exactly the same thing being said to me about coming out of the baptism, waters of baptism. And as I grew as a Baptist, I knew that the Baptists wanted you to give your life to Christ and then be baptized, because that was a commandment that was given, that we should be baptized. And also Christ himself was baptized by John the Baptist. So that meant that that was part of what I needed to experience. And I had the same thing that I was told, when you come out of the waters, just exactly like you'll be different. But it wasn't the fact that I expected to have all of this change. I didn't, because it's in here that matters, not physically what goes on, but how you are as a person. And my life as a Christian has been like this. I totally like that, a roller coaster. Up in the mountains, down in the valleys. Where am I now? I'm a bit more pragmatic. I'm a bit more sort of level-headed. I take things as they are. But in here, I still know that God has made a change in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's sad to hear. I've got a friend who was very prominent in our Baptist church in Inverkeithing. He was like a brother to me. In fact, I was closer to him than I was to my own two brothers. And he had an experience with a church that was shepherding, which was sort of like telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And he went down south, and what I found out was that he was like you. He had the same experience, like I've forgotten the two brothers, but they're two brothers. One's an atheist and the other's a Christian. It'll come to me. But basically, he posted this thing on LinkedIn that mentioned that this particular it was they're having a debate about God. And he very much fell on the side of the brother who didn't believe. And that's how he eventually turned away. And you can't even talk to him about religion now because he just goes off on a tangent. You just don't discuss it with him because it's not a discussion he wants to have. And and I'm not kidding you, Andy. He, as a musician, as somebody who wrote beautiful words, beautiful songs, very good, memorable Christian words. I couldn't believe the change in this guy going from being so close to me and then suddenly so separated. You know what I mean? And I'm still sad about it today.
I mean, I can understand it to some extent, especially when you do feel a little bit betrayed. As I say, this idea that you had this best friend in Jesus, and then you feel like all the people who were telling you that he will be there for you, even though they believe it, it still feels like they were lying to you, even though that they were being by that logic they were being lied to just as much. I can understand wanting to take a distance from it and say, because it did feel almost like I'd been in an abusive relationship. I'd been abused and forced to believe all my life. It was, as you say, the very fact that I grew up here. I was raised Christian by Christian parents, and frankly, if they'd been Muslim, I would have been raised Muslim. If they'd been Hindu, I would have been raised Hindu. And
yeah, you're right.
And this idea that suddenly their religion was the correct one, and I just got lucky enough to get into it. It just seemed a bit crazy, to be honest.
I understand that.
Yeah, when you've had that, you kind of do feel like, I want that distance. You don't want to be around the people who frankly, forcing you to have a part of your life cut off, and especially when they're trying, if you try to speak to them again, it feels like they're trying to force you back into that limited and restrictive form of life where you're being told you're not allowed to be this way, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to say this.
Yeah, I know. I understand it. I understand all of that. I think, I suppose, we're both going to be in a position where, you have decisions to make in your life. You want the best for your children. You want the best future for them. I want the best future for my grandchildren as well as my children, and all of that. And you just hope that, life for them will be so much better. I think people, to be honest, when you take the lockdown situation and the number of people who have come out of, their shell, as it were, or they've done things which have been amazing for other people, that just shows that really deep down we can care about each other. And I hope that when we go back...
This is one of the most important things in my life, is this idea that we can be good no matter who we are. And I remember it was there was one day, a while back, I was actually a member of the community council here. And I remember somebody saying that the reason the some of these youths were acting out was because they didn't have enough God in their lives. And it's just like, oh, come on. People can be good people. People can also be bad people.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with how much the quantity of God in their lives. People can be good people having never encountered God. Now, you may choose to believe that secretly God was guiding that person, and that's okay to believe that. If you think that I've done good things and it's because God guided me there to do good things, then you are entitled to believe that. It may well even be true. I might be proven one day that it's true. But telling somebody that they can't be good without God is such an awful, horrible thing to say to someone. It's so it shows that you only have faith in God, and we have to also have faith in ourselves and of people. And I believe that people can be good, but I do also believe that people can be bad. And I've met many a bad person who is a Christian, and many a bad person who is a Muslim. And that doesn't mean that they are bad because they're Christian. It just means that some people are not very nice people, and some people are very nice people. And if they happen to be religious, I'm sorry, but I just see it as that's a coincidence.
Yeah.
If they are a kind person because the Bible told them to be, I'm a little bit mistrusting of them. So if they're saying, if somebody says to me, "Oh, here, let me help you up there," oh, thank you. Oh, well, the Bible says that I had to help you up. I'm not going. So are you saying you wouldn't have helped me up if the Bible hadn't told you to? So that makes me a bit nervous. I love that many people will use the Bible and say, I'm following the Bible, because it does have some wonderful advice in there.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the most important one, I think, is not just in the Bible. It's in the Quran. It's in the Torah. It's in so many different religious texts, and that's always the same one. And I think the way the Bible puts it is, "Do unto others as you would have done unto you," or just this idea of treat other people.
Love your neighbor as yourself, I think, is what Jesus said.
That's what the New Testament says. Yes, but frankly, that, from what I can tell, that is the single message that I'm yet to encounter any religion that doesn't say that.
I think you're right. I think the other thing about
the stories of Zeus and Apollo going through a village and just wanting to be treated as neighbors, to be treated the way that they would hope, and being treated badly, and not the way that those people would have treated them if it was themselves. And it's just an incredible thing that I think that is the overriding message. And if there's maybe a proof of God, it's that he's taught everyone that message, no matter what religion they are. That's why I think if there is a God and he's waiting for us, he'll let in every Muslim who was good in life. He'll let in every atheist who was good in life. He'll let in everyone who just obeyed that basic message of be kind to one another the way you would hope they would be kind to you. But if you're only being good because the Bible told you to, maybe you need to look at yourself and ask, are you actually a good person?
I know. Listen, I want to ask you, we're way over a couple of hours now, so I want to ask you just one last question, and that is, what's left in your bucket list? Have you got a bucket list?
Ooh, I don't think I have a bucket list. I have a whatever's shiny this week list.
No places you want to be, no places you want to visit, nothing you want to do in particular.
So many places I would love to visit. If I had.
If you were to choose a place in the world where you would definitely want to go, where would it be?
Barratt Islands. It just looks pretty. I don't know why. Something that just feels a little bit more remote, and and I don't like I don't like hot weather. so when I'm going on holiday, I'll be picking somewhere like Norway, Sweden, somewhere like that. But I'd love to go to the Faroe Islands. It just looks interesting. I'd love to go to Shetland.
So if you had all the money in the world, if you won the lottery, and you were given, if you won Euro Millions and it was hundreds of millions you won, what would be the first thing you would spend money on?
I'd pay off the mortgage. But that's a given. That's just a right. You've got the money. The first thing I'd actually spend it on.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've never actually. Whenever I've thought about winning the lottery, I've more thought about who I'd spend it on rather than what I'd spend it on. So, for instance, I'd make sure that my mum was sorted. I'd make sure that, and then I've always gone by. I wouldn't do any of the big spending. I would sort out my financial situation, sort out the financial situation of people in my family who need it, and then I'd just live off the interest. But any big money I'd be spending, I'd always go by, well, where does it need to be? Because it certainly doesn't need to be on me. I'll happily accept it and live without having to worry about an income for a while. But, but otherwise, if I'm going to put big money anywhere, it will be on things like, well, I'm obsessed with wind turbines, so I'm going to go by,
investing in wind turbines.
Can I plunk some money down to make sure that we don't have to ever build another coal power plant? Can I dump some money down to make sure that if I see that people are on the street starving, which is mad in our country, we've got oil rigs out there, but we can't feed children here. Right. So it's just like I'm going to be making. So mostly, I think I'll be trying to make sure that it's actually going where it needs to be. And,
I agree, and I think that one of the things
I'm sure whenever I have a new hobby, I'll go for it. If I want to take up sailing, I'll buy a small boat and I'll go sailing. But ultimately, I don't need the money, but there are people in the world who do need the money, and I find it so horrifying that there is so much poverty in the world, and it's something that there was a quote recently where it was something like if the richest 1% in the world were to spend 1% of their wealth, then it was something like nobody would be hungry.
Correct. Do you know something? You've just hit the nail on the head, because I thought that when we first went into lockdown, my first thought was, what are all these millionaires, billionaires, multi-billionaires, trillionaires doing? How do they sleep at night in all their luxury, knowing that the world is starving, knowing that there's people really struggling? If I was in their shoes, I would be helping everybody I could. Why not? If you're not going to need all these trillions of pounds or billions of pounds, why don't they do it?
The ones who actually are using their wealth for good are the ones that get ripped into the most.
Yep.
So, for instance, Bill Gates famously Bill and Melinda Gates famously spend all of their wealth on vaccine programs. There was a point where people were just horrified. How could Bill Gates not be the richest man in the world? And it was because he'd spent loads of it vaccinating Africa, to the point that polio is nearly eradicated in Africa.
Yep.
All of it because it's been bought with Bill Gates' personal money. He was buying vaccines and just plowing them out.
Yep.
Eradicating polio.
Yep.
And who's the one who's got the most conspiracy theories and every bit of belittling against him during this COVID thing? Everyone's going
exactly.
One
people say we're getting injected with all these chips.
Oh yes, with microchips which don't exist. So, I wish technology were that fancy. We're not there. So,
no.
But then you've got people like Tim Cook who's in charge of Apple, and he's made sure that every single Apple building is 100% renewable energy.
That's right. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
They have their own wind powers. The complex in Cupertino where Apple is based is covered in solar panels. And apparently he actually had a board member saying, could we stop wasting money on this stuff? And because we're trying to invest money here, and you're wasting it all on renewable things, which, let's face it, aren't important for making more money. They do not make us money. Could you stop wasting it? And he basically turned around and said, "You are welcome to divest.
Yes.
We're not budging on
Leave.
this."
Yeah.
And
Leave.
Tim Cook gets belittled so much for that, and then you have so many other things where the people who are doing good in the world are the ones who are not getting the treatment they deserve. For instance, how often have you heard people say something like, "My Alexa is so brilliant; she can answer any question. My Google Assistant is so incredible," and then they go, "Oh, have you ever used Siri? Oh, it's awful. It's just awful." Why is it awful? Because Google buys all your data. They read all of your emails when you're on Gmail to make adverts out of them. They monitor every single thing you do on Google Maps.
They do.
That's why their Google Maps is so good. It's because they're watching you with a spying on you. Siri is awful because Apple refuses to get into the data buying game. They refuse to spy on us. And the board members don't like it. And I imagine that the moment Tim Cook is no longer head of Apple, I think we're going to see a big difference in Apple. I imagine these iPhones are going to get so much better at intelligently guessing what we need in life, because they'll be stealing our data, because Tim Cook won't be stopping the board from doing it anymore.
Listen, Andy, we're in almost close to 2.5 hours now, so I'm just going to run this quickfire round, which I'm going to do at the end of every one of these streams. Basically, it will run, and you will have 10 seconds from the time the question comes up until the timer goes off again to answer it. Okay, so I'm just going to start this now.
Okay. Text or talk? Definitely text. That was a quick one. Shower.
Yeah.
You want to line their own filth. Well, bogey Barratt. We won't get into it. Probably Summer Cloud, just because she's pretty. Autumn. Who doesn't like crunchy leaves? Eat in. There's too many people eating out. I don't think I have a favorite movie. Listening to music. I try to play piano. I don't do it very well. Night owl. I hate waking up. English and a wee bit of Scots. And I'm trying to learn Gaelic.
There you go. Excellent. So that's actually, I think, coming up to, it's 2 hours 24 since I started this stream almost.
Yeah.
So my word, that's been a marathon session, but absolutely loved every moment of it, Andy. I'm so thankful that you have agreed to be my guinea pig, as it were. But obviously, because this is Worldwide Autism Awareness Week as well, that has helped a few people to see how you manage your daily life as well. So I just want to thank everybody who's watched the stream, who is watching the stream on replay, who did it live, who commented, etc. And we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.